Welcome back to the Nebraskabilities podcast. I am your host, Zach, joined by my co-hosts, Nate and Andy. And today we get to talk about nothing. I mean, it was apparently supposed to be a football game, but what we saw on Saturday when Nebraska played Michigan was, I think, what some might call a rout. Destroyed. Any kind of adjective that absolutely shows that we played the number 2 team in the country when we are not anywhere close to that. That's what you saw on Saturday. Just an all-out beating from the number 2 team in the country, Michigan, and absolutely pummeled Nebraska and probably brought some fans back down to maybe earth, I guess, if you will. I know the three of us were, we were getting a little hyped a little bit. We were like, hey, we haven't really played the greatest competition, but we thought maybe that was enough to knock the rust off and maybe we'd put up a good showing against Michigan. That did not happen. That is not at all what happened. And so we got to witness what happens when a team that's really, really good plays a team that's really, really not good. And honestly, there's not really a whole lot to talk about, I guess, when you look at it, because we got pummeled. But I will pass it to Andy just for your quick thoughts, because my quick thoughts are on to Illinois.
Hell yeah, we are. Yeah, it was definitely a measuring stick, I would say, type of game, to where what I'd said in last week's episode is these are the type of games that you want to see Nebraska play, and what Rule wants to see us play is how do you stack up against these types of teams that are obviously more superior, far better than you. And Rule had said it after the game. He said it all week during his press conferences. This is the type of week and game that you find out who your team is and who they are. If you listen to any of his post-game press conference afterwards, you could tell him, and he was fired up. He wasn't really angry, yelling, but I mean, you could just tell that it affected him so much that we didn't come out, we didn't show up, and I think that's what we're going to see, hopefully, coming this Friday when they play Illinois, is you are going to find out what this team is made of after getting your butt spanked at home in front of your home crowd and almost losing the shutout streak, essentially. No thanks to a garbage time touchdown by Josh Fleeks there. But I always go back to what I've kind of made this comparison in my own head this past week. Is that type of game is something that how much of Nebraska in the 90s was like to other teams is just straight up bully ball in the trenches. I mean, Nebraska came in with the top rushing defense in the country, up there with sacks and everything like that. And Michigan came in and proved that we weren't. That set us back to reality, like you said, Zach. And I think, that's the type of game that Michigan wanted to come in is, okay, you supposedly the number 1 defense in the country, prove it. Let's see. Let's stop us. And Nebraska did none of those things. We barely stopped them. I think maybe twice on either a punt or something like that. But yeah, it was not a fun game by any means. Very little positives you take out of it. I mean, you saw, like I said, Josh Fleeks break off and avoid the shutout streak. And that's, one run for that long of a game. But, if he doesn't break off that run, I think you see him a lot more that series. But he proved that he's fast, that he can be, a valuable backup for Anthony Grant now going forward if he kind of keeps the consistent workload. But that'd be more practice because we only saw him for that one run in the game right now. So kind of not what I really expected in terms of that type of game. I thought it would be, maybe a little bit closer, and maybe, not Nebraska scoring 21 plus or anything, but definitely competitive wise, keeping it close. And you could tell after the first 2 drives, Michigan goes up 14-0. You're like, okay, this is this is going to go sideways real quick, and it did. So I think it was that type of game is just a wake up call to Coach Rule, to the team. Is okay. You now know what this team is. You know where you stack up against probably the best team in the country. I'm still surprised that. I mean, I get why they're ranked number 2 still, but I mean, if you've watched any of Georgia's games this year, I don't think they're the number 1 team right now. But you also have to take Michigan's schedule into account, is they didn't really play anybody up until this point, until this game. And you could still argue they really haven't played anybody yet, because
I was just about to say that. I was like, that's a pretty bold statement.
Juggernaut. What are you talking about?
But it's yeah, like I said, it's a measuring stick. As okay, you now know what this Nebraska team is like against a team like that. They're not going to play anybody of that caliber the rest of the year. So now Coach Rule has to take into the account is, okay, was that just a one-off game where we just didn't show up and play? Is that what the rest of the games are going to be like going forward? Do I need to change how I motivate my players, how to get them competitive, firing again? And I think that's what he's met this whole week, this press conferences, is when he says that you're going to find out about this team and who we are, is you're going to find out the dudes that want to play and want to ball out. And that's what he had said all along, is, we didn't have those guys that went out and attack and made that a game. He said they played that game pretty passive and conservative. And I mean, you could say that just by watching the tape. You could also say that Nebraska's offense just sucked that game. I mean, they did, but we'll see if that happens, is, which, I mean, the Rule really believes in his players too. He thinks, all of his players are NFL caliber, and, who a lot of that maybe just coach speak, but, he's just trying to get his players confident and believing in themselves and knowing that they're the players that he wants on his team to go out and win us those games and make us those plays and everything. So, yeah, overall, just really the game that we thought was going to happen. Like I said, I thought it'd be a little bit closer, but nonetheless, Michigan proved why they're the number 1-2 team in the nation. And definitely a wake-up call to Tony White and his defense is, okay, we may not face another offensive rushing line team like that the rest of the season, but now you know where you stack up against the best of the best. And how do you go forward? How do you fix that? How do you game plan, manage that, all of that? So hopefully it was a wake-up call, but we'll turn it to Nate there. Yeah, not much more to say after that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a great measuring stick, great litmus test for this team to see really where we're at as a team as a whole. And clearly we showed we have a lot of improvement to go, a lot of work to do. Obviously we were hoping to be a little closer. We were hoping our defense was going to show out against, top offense in the nation. Clearly that didn't happen, but I regard this as more of Michigan was an opportunity for Nebraska. It was a good chance for us to make a name for us. If we we pull the upset, we're immediately making strides, getting on the map, things like that. But I think our biggest game is genuinely going to be Illinois coming up, because, and I mean, even of the next 4 games coming up, because this is the chance, this is the opportunity, this is where we see where this team can actually really go. I mean, we hope that we can measure up to the number 2 team in the nation. We hope that we can, come out and give them a game. We didn't. That's fine. That's whatever. That's behind us. It has to be behind us for this week, especially on a short week. And so moving into the next 4 games, they're at least theoretically winnable games. And so we have to put everything behind us. Yeah, it was 45-7. Was not a good showing by either side of the ball by any stretch of the imagination. It genuinely looked like nobody was really ready to play football, which was a little disappointing to see. I know my personal keys to the game from last week were just that I wanted to see a clean game. I wanted to see us come out and fight. As from what I remember, at least the gist of it, that was what I wanted to see. And really, I didn't see any of that from either side of the ball. Like you said, we had the Joshua Fleeks, history-saving touchdown, but that was really the only highlight we had from either side of the ball.
Mhm.
The defense wasn't really up to snuff, and the offense, we had the one turnover, which, tipped pass into an interception. It's whatever. But otherwise, didn't really see too much to really go forward about. And so what I see now is, that was our opportunity to make a big splash, make the national headlines. But really, this is where the team is going to be made in the next 4 games against Illinois, Purdue, Northwestern Michigan State. Teams that are, like I said, in theory, winnable games, beatable teams. That's not to say that we can't execute. We have to execute to, near perfection here to really be up to snuff with these teams and to really compete with these teams. And I hope that we don't show up on a short week and fall flat. That is my only hope for what we have going forward. But just kind of circling back to Michigan, I won't get too far into forward thinking here. But the team came out flat. The team came out really unorganized. Just a little disappointing to watch as a fan. Like you said, Andy, Michigan was up 14-0, and honestly, the game felt out of reach at that point. It wasn't like, okay, 14-0, maybe we can get a quick score, get it within reach, and maybe mount some sort of comeback, make it a reasonable score. It was, oh no, we're down 14-0. How bad is this going to get? And it probably could have gotten worse. So thank you, Mr. Khakis, for not bringing your khakis and having some mercy. But it was not a great game from Nebraska as a whole. And so just the hope going forward is that we play some inspired football. And like I said, just put this one past us and give all we got going forward into at least the next 4 games. Obviously, the next 7 games would be nice, but at least the next 4 that are theoretically within reach. So with that, I'll pass it over to Zach on we'll get going on any tidbits we see that are maybe positive. I don't know.
I'll be honest. Is there much? There's not a whole lot to really cover there. I don't think it was just a bad showing. I will say this though. And this might be a weird way to put it, but something that I've been kind of thinking in my head, even since the Michigan game, is that technically you could look at it as now our season starts. And I know we've been playing, and we're 2-3. We've played 5 games, but like now from after the Michigan game, like we've hit the peak of our schedule in terms of opponents that we're playing. And that's not to downplay any other opponents, but it's just, Michigan on our schedule is by far the best team as of today, as we're recording this, that we will probably play. Now, of course, anything can happen in college football. So, this statement may age like milk, but in this case, like you said, Nate, these next 4 games are theoretically winnable. I'll even say the rest of them on our schedule, I'm not going to say that we have the greatest chance to win them, but all of the teams on there, except for, I don't know, maybe Maryland has, I guess we'll see what they're made of this week when they play Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Maryland and Wisconsin, Iowa's got a good defense, but their offense looks like ours. So, 2 good defenses going up against each other in that game. If our defense, stays the course after Michigan, I don't know. I think at this point, I think even with the absolute pounding that we took from Michigan, I think there is a lot of potential in the rest of our schedule. And maybe going bowling is a reach, but it's, I don't think, impossible. And again, if Rule can get his players motivated and he can get them to believe in what he's coaching and what he's doing, then by all means, I don't see any reason why we can't win at least some of these games. But going back to the idea of looking at positives for the offense and defense and special teams, which we normally do, if you guys want to, we can, but I'm just gonna say it like I'm feeling. We just got showed up, and we really Michigan, like you said, brought us, or like we've all kind of said, brought us back to earth. Not that we were necessarily in cloud nine at that point, but we definitely are now remembering, oh yes, we are still bad. I mean, I don't even remember seeing, this sounds bad, but I don't remember seeing a whole lot of good. It was, I mean, up until I think maybe they put their second team in, I don't think we really were able to do much. They just, I guess the one thing I took from the game is the Michigan, we saw what a complete college football team looks like, and Nebraska's not there. And I think we all knew that going into the game that, Michigan was but like you said, Nate, it looked like the players thought the same thing. It's like, well, they're going to win. So it looked like they just didn't want to show up. And, to the point of all the press conferences that Rule has had this week too. I say all of them, he's had 2, but he even said the other day that he wants players that are fired up, that already have a championship mentality, that, when you go down 14-0, it's not, oh no, like, what do we do now? And they're not concerned with making mistakes. They're just, go out and just play the game. Right now he kind of gave us a lot of insight into what he's dealing with in terms of the mental side of the team, which should not be really a shocker when you look at the last few years, but is not very good. He said that he didn't call anybody out by name. But I think it was more of just kind of a general statement from that he's seeing this in a lot of players, that there's just a lot of people that are playing timid, not necessarily that they're not going out to hit anybody, or that they're not going out if you're in the defense, and they're not trying to, they're playing, trying not to make a mistake, rather than playing just intense and playing, lights out, as best as they can. And he is trying to instill this in their mind, like, hey, like, mistakes are going to happen. You can't play with the mindset that you can't play entirely with the mindset that you're never going to make a mistake, or that if you try to not make a mistake, you're going to play worse. He's trying to coach that out of them. And I mean, that makes sense. We've been a losing team for almost a decade now. I think maybe it has been a decade. So it's not real. It can't really be shocking that our team morale, in terms of when we get into a situation like playing Michigan, is just bottom of the barrel. So I think, it says a lot about what Rule has to fight against in terms of just trying to get the winning mentality in the team. But I don't know. I mean, we Michigan beat us. Yay.
Pretty much.
So, I mean, we could sit here and dissect all we want, but I'm going to be honest. This one's all just mental notes for me this time. So, if you're tuning into this podcast and you're really looking for a deep dive into stats on this week, we're just going to apologize now, and we're going to move on to Illinois.
Just know that it probably knocked us down a lot in the nation in some way, shape, or form.
I was trying to look that up, and I can't seem to remember. I wasn't having
the one positive I'll give on offense is we moved the ball around a little bit. We hit a few different receivers. Good to see everyone get involved.
that quickly turned into a passing game.
Yeah,
more than we probably wanted it to quickly.
Well, and I mean, looking at Harburg's stats here real quick too. I mean, he went 14 for 25, which isn't necessarily great, but 25 passes, I think, is up there with the most he's had to throw. And he got 199. He got basically 200 yards. I mean, his stat line isn't necessarily great, but it's improving. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not, the whole game itself wasn't entirely garbage. There's things to take away from them. The problem is that's such granular stuff that's the coach's job. It's not ours. So I think at this point, I don't want to relive that game. So, so with that, this Friday, so we're recording.
We're on to Illinois.
Wednesday, we're on to Illinois. Kind of like I said, season starts now. Again, that's kind of, it sounds like a weird way to put it, but to me, it's the back half of the season starts now, and Big Ten play starts now for us. Well, it started, you know what I mean? Like, I think the true Big Ten teams that we can compete against start now. So I'll pass it on to you guys.
Yeah, I still think the quarterback discussion is a really interesting discussion. You know, at some point we're still going to see Sims. I think I just don't know in what way, shape, capacity that Rule is going to roll him out. Is it going to be either one? He's probably going to have to be healthy enough, and maybe it might not happen until after the bye week, just to give him a little extra week rest. Is it going to be when Harbaugh finally starts making some mistakes and you need to bench him? I don't know with that. And I'll give Michigan credit. I think they must have saw something on tape on him, just because there were a lot more tipped passes this game than there was, the past 2 games when he was throwing the ball. So, credit to Michigan on that, probably realizing that Heinrich doesn't throw a lot of air out passes. Essentially, they're more kind of line low drives, essentially. And, that's somewhat of his throwing motion. Is that something that you need to fix because it's going to keep happening going forward, or something like that? Because one of them led to a pick, and then Michigan scored immediately on the next drive. So something that I guess needs to keep in mind if we're just talking about quarterbacks and passing and everything like that. But at the same time, I think Rule is probably confident that Heinrich's going to start on Friday. We don't really know. They keep saying Sims is going to get better and better and get back to healthy, but who knows when that's going to be? Who knows if he's even close to 100%, if he's still at 80 or 85%, something like that. And I don't know when Rule is going to roll out Sims again. I know he will. I just don't know when or what capacity. And a little bit, some of that does scare me a little bit, but I think for now, I think Heinrich is your starter unless proven otherwise, for at least this week. And then, you go into the bye week, see what happens. And when you look at the schedule for the next upcoming games, it's really going to determine if Nebraska gets close to being that bowl eligible that we had predicted kind of at the beginning of the year, and what we think that we could see this year playing out just based on the schedule. So these next 4 stretch of games, I know that, like Nate had said, you got Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, Michigan State, all winnable games. But, if you go off track history of Nebraska, all these teams have had our numbers in recent years. So I don't think out of the past 4 or 5 years, I don't think we're above 500 against playing against any of these teams. So it's hard. On paper, yeah, it looks like, we should beat these teams every single year, but just Nebraska's always been behind in trying to beat these teams. And I think that is going to be, a short week going on the road to Champaign after you just got your butts kicked at home. It's really going to show the mental psyche of this team. And are they going to come out? Are they going to attack? Are they going to be fired up like Coach Rule wants them to be? Or are they just going to are we going to see what this team truly is, and maybe just not a good overall team this year? And that's, it's a rebuilding year. We know that too, but we've seen what flashes of this team can be on offense and defenses. We know they can't stop the run. They can't be good in pass protection. They can be great with run protection and, creating big explosive plays. So is it just one of those that Nebraska just needs to be better at consistently doing that week in and week out to get to that bowl eligibility type record that we need them to be? And, it's all. It's tough to look at the Michigan game and convince yourself that this is what that team is going to be the rest of the year. Michigan is just obviously a far better team, a far superior team. And, do you just kind of take that and be like, all right, yeah, we played that game, but let's look at the previous 4 games that we did play before Michigan, and how can we fix those mistakes and continue on with the season and just, kind of flush the Michigan game down the drain? Is that what Coach Rule is telling them to do? Or do you you also want to look at the Michigan game and learn from that and be like, all right, you guys got your butts kicked at home. Are you going to let that happen again? Are you going to keep going out and get your butts kicked on the road or something like that? But with that, I mean, you go into the running backs and the wide receiver, and I know we passed more last game, but that was kind of a situation where we had to pass more. So can Nebraska get back to what we do best, is running the ball very well? And are we able to push Illinois around? And, I don't think, Illinois is not that good of a team either. I think we are either matched up well 50-50 across the board, or maybe just slightly better in terms of just being able to run the ball. Because, their defense is not the defense that we played last year. They had obviously NFL caliber talent on their defense that got drafted in the first and second rounds last year. So they've definitely taken a step back. They've taken a step back on their running back. I forgot who their running back was last year, but they don't have him anymore. So
Chase Brown.
Yeah, Chase Brown.
Yep.
So Illinois has definitely taken a step back this year to what they were last year, and on paper they are beatable. Their defense has given up 419 yards a game, 179 on the ground, 239 on the air. So unless we somehow get into a passing game again, I obviously expect our running numbers to be far better this game than passing wise. But is our line going to be up to the challenge to push them around all four quarters? And same on the defenses. Are we able to flush out what Michigan did to us last week and be able to step up and stop Illinois this game and get back to what we saw the defense the first 4 weeks instead of just last week? So a lot of unknown, a lot of just variables. And like Zach had said, the beginning of the season essentially starts now. Now we really get to see what this team is going to be made of going forward. And the Big Ten West is theoretically still wide open. You've lost 2 conference games, but one of them really only matters is the Minnesota conference loss. Michigan counts as a conference loss, but doesn't count towards your division loss. So if you have 4 Big Ten West teams tied at 2-3 right now in terms of overall record, and the other ones that are tied at 2-3 are your next 3 opponents of Illinois, Northwestern, and Purdue. So if you go 3-0 those games, you're suddenly up there in contention with top of the standings, obviously depending on what Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota do in their next stretch of 3 games. But if you win even 2 of these out of these next 3, you're definitely up there, second, third place in your division now instead of sitting at last like we always are every year. So it is definitely, I think, a bigger game that Nebraska needs going forward to just push towards that bowl eligibility and just keep any sort of momentum that you have for the rest of your season alive. Because not that one game can derail a season, but we saw last year. You lose to Northwestern right out of the gate last year, and your season just gets derailed immediately. So that game this Friday could be like that, and you go into a bye week with just 2 weeks of just negative comments and stories and everything, just because you're sitting on an extra week of not doing anything. And, these players want to go out and prove that negativity might be wrong. So let's just not go into a bye week with, talking about a close loss or a blowout loss or anything like that. Even if it's a close win, that's still better than obviously a close loss. So we can dive, I guess, if we want to dive more into specifics, or if we just want to dive into what Nate thinks that we need to do better. And it could be just everything.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Andy. No, it's all really good points. It's really how you battle back from losing 45-7 at home to Michigan at this point. Like, do you take that to heart? Do you take that as, oh, this is the team we are? We're this, pushover that anyone can just put up however many points they want on? Or do you come back angry and you come out against Illinois on their own turf after a 2-alarm fire? And do you say, hey, we're still a competitive team. This season isn't over. We can like you said, we can still, in theory, bowl eligibility is out there. There are 7 games to play. We need 4 to win.
If you win these next 3, I mean, you're looking at, obviously you're looking at Michigan State, Wisconsin, Maryland, Iowa, which, I mean, it's a tougher stretch to try to win 1 or 2 out of those. But I mean, you get to that point and you're just looking for 1 or 2 wins at that point. And I mean, Iowa, now that Cade McNamara is out for the rest of the year, I mean, that game looks better than it did at the start. But
there's also the confidence that goes into that. If we win the next 3
Right.
games, the team will finally be like, okay, like they'd be like, we can do this.
It would be their first 3-game winning streak since probably the 7-0 Mike Riley start. I mean, we have not had, what was that? 2016? They have not won 3 games in a row since 2016, which is a mind-blowing stat.
I was in college back then.
Yeah, that's. I mean, just none of these players have felt like what a true winning streak is. 2 games is, I think most people consider a streak like 3 plus
At
something.
least.
Yeah, 3 games or 3 series or like whatever you want to call it. But most of these players, if hardly any, have ever had any college level of win streak success in their careers. So, I mean, these are the next 3 games to do it too.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we've got to fight towards. Like it.
And after Illinois, you get the
season's over. It has to be.
Right.
Okay, we had a rough showing against Michigan. We have to play our best against Illinois and give them everything we got and take it 1 game at a time. Like obviously, like we've been saying, these next 3-4 games are really important. Focusing on Illinois. Their quarterback is 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, maybe forced an interception here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Their top running back has 248 yards for 1 touchdown. Maybe our run defense shows up a little bit. And it's in theory it's a winnable game. If everything can go our way, which is a very, very tall ask.
That is that's a big ask, Nate.
But
this
really,
is Nebraska we're still talking about.
It's if we can come out and have a team that wants to win and not trying to not lose, I think is how Matt Rule put it. We just need a team that wants to go out and play their hardest, not trying to not make mistakes here and there. Like it's a team that needs to, there's going to be growing pains. It's not going to go as we want against every team. I mean, Illinois is favored by 3 points. If you look at ESPN FPI, it's by a lot more. So the odds are technically not in our favor, but I mean, realistically, the opportunity is there again. That's why I said Michigan, it's a great opportunity. Sure, we come in, maybe we beat up the number 2 team in the nation there and take them down.
That would have been impressive if we play Michigan and beat Alabama. That would have been impressive. That would have been really impressive.
It would have been nice to beat the number 2 team in the nation at home. It would have been a nice turning point, whatever. You could use that as your recruit pitch, everything going forward. It didn't happen. Whatever, you got to put that behind you, and it's got to be all Illinois this week. And no matter how good or bad they have been or haven't been, you have to focus on Illinois. It's going to be a short week, and that is what honestly worries me the most. I mean, it is just one less day, but it's one less day to and prepare for what their defense is going to look like and things like that. And so I don't know if the opportunity is there, but we have to play our best. We can't just show up and be like, well, we're 2-3, they're 2-3, but they have nothing to lose either. They just it was about the same loss that we just had, but it was against Purdue, 44-19. But it's still they're going to be looking to rebound from a big loss, and again, you have to play it. You have nothing to lose, and you have to play like, I don't know, you just want more. And I did not see that against Michigan at all, and I was thoroughly disappointed. Like I said, I just wanted to see even even if we lost, I just want to see a team that was going to fight and at least, give some effort towards making it some semblance of game. And I think that's all we can really hope for this Friday night. I think we're going to have a better showing. I think Coach Rule really has internalized a lot of the things that probably us fans and the media have been throwing at him. And I think it's going to be a better product on the field than what we saw on Saturday. I'm just fingers crossed hoping that the kids are taking it to heart too. And it seems like a lot of the press conferences I've seen, they're not like, oh, sad, oh, this is just where we are. They're upset. They want to go out and prove people wrong and show like this is not Nebraska football. It's not where we are. We have something to show people and we have something to prove. So I'm hoping that's what we see on Friday. We'll see, I guess, at whatever 7 p.m. kickoff, 5 p.m. kickoff Pacific time.
I was going to say, some of us are in a normal time zone.
Whoa. Some of us are in a time zone. So
I think we all might be in a time zone. I mean, I don't want to necessarily shift the discussion to, science of that, but I think we might all be living in a time zone
crazy.
somewhere.
Some might say I could get to bed by 8 p.m. after that game when some other people might not be good to bed at 10, 11. So who's really living the life? But I digress. I'll pass it over to Zach on any thoughts you have for the upcoming matchup against the fighting Burt Bielema.
I think they rule set today. Cam Leonard is should be ready to play.
Yeah, I think
Friday.
he more or less confirmed like, yeah, he's going to play. I think is what he said. It was a very short passing comment, too.
Right?
Like it was very quick, but
Reimer won't play. We still don't know fully what he's out with.
He said it wasn't a football. Or I think Rule said it wasn't a football injury.
Right?
It was
some illness. So hopefully, I mean, he's not going to play Friday, but hopefully, with the bye week coming up, he gets that time to recover and we get him back for Northwestern. But I think outside of no other big injury news of people coming back. I mean, again, Jeff Sims, we don't really know until we either see him in a game or Rule says he's for sure going to play at some point. But I think that was at least injury news wise for Friday. I think we'll know more Friday when that injury report comes out, who's really going to be active and who's going to
play. As of now, my potential conspiracy is still out there with the fact that they might be saying Jeff Sims is hurt. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Like, I don't want him to be faking an injury, but
for how long he's been out, I mean, they say it's an ankle injury. It's probably going to be like a high ankle sprain because those take like 3 to 6 weeks. Yeah, 3 to 6 weeks to heal. And I mean, that put him with the bye week 2 in Northwestern. That probably puts him back to the healing time for him to come back, essentially. So,
yeah,
they said it was nothing serious, right? But it was probably some sort of high ankle sprain. I mean, there's nothing else he'd be out for this long, unless your turf toe Taylor Martinez, but.
Ow.
Hey, I thought we were just focusing on Michigan being the best pod this week. Why are we doing that?
I'm sorry, I just had a flashback.
Anyway,
he won us some games.
Yeah. Anyway, no. You guys kind of hit on most of the big points, I guess. I mean, if anything, for me, I guess key points to the game are just recover. I mean, our offense is clearly not the strong unit, so I'm not going to put too much expectation on them, but I really, really want to see our defense recover.
Yeah, they need to have a bounce back.
Especially with Illinois being as beatable as they are. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that FAU is not like a good team or anything, but FAU almost beat they almost beat Illinois.
They played FAU without Casey Thompson. Let's throw that out there too.
And I mean, FAU looked pretty good from what I saw from that game. So I mean, Michigan, good Lord. Illinois.
Hey, we're on to Illinois.
I know. I'm getting there. Illinois looks beatable. And of course, I'm sure, they're saying that about us because we are beatable. But the thing is that Nebraska is really, really good about doing is getting into these games that are winnable and finding a way to, what's the word? What is the phrase? Snatch defeat from the claws of victory. We are
Yes.
fantastic at doing that. And I really hope that, I guess, this is a weird silver lining and it's going to sound so bad, but maybe it's not a good thing, but maybe it's an okay thing that we got stomped by Michigan, because then it's like, okay, now we know what that feels like. We don't want to do that again. So now I'm hoping that the team is fired up and they want to play. And that goes back to what, we've all kind of alluded to, where Rule has said now, he's not only coaching the physical aspect, he's coaching the mental side of the team too. And there's probably a lot of, mental work in terms of just playing the game that he's really working on trying to get coached up. And we also, as fans, I think need to remember this is year one, and Rule's record in year one is not good. Now it doesn't help that he's in the past made comments saying, oh, well, year one at Temple and Baylor year one here at Nebraska feels like year two at Baylor and Temple. It's like, yeah, maybe, but
Also,
maybe let's
Temple and
not
Baylor
do that.
Still wasn't great either.
Right.
Yeah. Now, granted, the situations at those places was much worse that he went into than where he's at in Nebraska. Nebraska just, I legitimately think we need to exercise some demons somewhere and get get that out of our heads. I know we said it before the year started, or maybe it was last year. We need to get rid of who was the mascot, because we brought back Herbie.
Blonde Herbie's back.
But what was it Lil Red that we needed to sacrifice?
Oh yeah, just pop him at midfield.
Yeah, but we didn't do that. So
take a big old knife and just pop.
So it's like we did all the right things. We brought back Frank Solich, we brought back Herbie. Why have we not completed what we need to do here? But I digress. I'm probably not the one to talk to about that.
I'd say a smaller needle than a knife, so it just lets the demons out slowly.
Okay, slowly,
completely,
instead of completely deflating him all at once.
Yeah. We'll give him some time to air it
out. But no, I think the keys, just kind of rounding back out to that, the keys to the game for me are come back out with some passion, some fire, and play back to the comments that you said, Nate, just a little bit ago about how some players seem to be trying not to make a mistake. It's football. Mistakes are going to happen. Even the best teams have mistakes. Minimize the mistakes, but don't be afraid of failure. I know, no fear of failure. That is, etched into the halls of don't say these phrases again for Nebraska fans. But admittedly, it is something that the players need to figure out and play is, your mistakes are going to happen. That's why you play a team game, because one person might make a mistake. The rest of the team's there to back it up. Brush it off and brush off the Michigan game. Remember the Michigan game, but don't let it sit in your heads.
Right.
Just, don't forget the feeling after the Michigan game. Forget about the Michigan game itself. Come out and play fired up and play the game, because it's winnable. And I Illinois might be favorites, but who doesn't love a good underdog story?
Right.
I love it.
I echoing your sentiment too. I think coming out and attacking and controlling the lines early, I think is going to be the best thing Nebraska can do. Because if you just establish your offensive line immediately and just control the game, the offense, I think, has more time to free flow and figure out, is running or passing going to work more. Still prefer them to stick to the run game just because we know that's what they're good at, what they can dominate at. But if you control that line early, control the defensive line, get a few early stops out of Illinois, get your offense a chance to go out there and, put up a 2-score lead or something like that early in the game. That's going to go a long way for Nebraska's confidence and momentum to keep that game in their hands. They only had, I think, one turnover last week. And like I said, it was just off the tip pass at the line. So I mean, they're
You can't really get
controlling.
upset about that.
No, they're
The way that
controlling.
one happened, it's like,
Yeah,
that
they're
Backbreaking,
handling the
but, like,
ball a
yeah.
lot better.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially was backbreaking because Nebraska never really recovered after that. But yeah, I mean, they're handling the ball a lot better. So just continue to keep doing that. Like you said, Zach, minimize the mistakes. If Nebraska can, stop shooting itself with the unlimited ammo gun that they have year in and year out to shoot themselves in the foot, that would be spectacular.
Yeah, those feet have to be like Swiss cheese, full of holes at this point.
That there's no end to that ammo supply at the moment.
It's impressive. Honestly.
I mean, I'll bleed red until I die. I mean, I love the Huskers, but man, I don't know how they're able to make it out on the field when they got to be hobbling on just literal just like I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, outside of that, I mean, if you can get a special teams play out of Friday, that's just more the merrier. I mean, I think you got to, if you have a chance for Alvano to just get some sort of a 35, 40 yarder, assuming that he is the kicker. Yeah, just something, because he's a freshman kicker. Rule went with him. He won, quote unquote, the kicking job in the training camp, but hasn't really lived up to what we've heard about him. So if he's able to give him a chance to kind of prove that and can go make those kicks before you send out Bleak Road again, I mean, that'll go a long way for him career-wise at Nebraska, of a kicker that we can trust going forward season, year in and year out. So if you can get a special teams play like that, take it while you can. But I think this game will come down to controlling the lines, because now you're, like we said, you're getting into the heart of Big Ten conference play, where the run game and controlling the lines is really going to win you these games now. So if Nebraska can just come out, control that early, just get a handle on the game, kind of like what they did with Northern Illinois, is kind of leave no doubt that you're going to lose that game right out of the gate, and just do that. But that's really the biggest key to my game. Is just doing that, and minimizing the stakes, like Zach said.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. It's got to be you got to show up.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the first step to this game. Like, it was a home game. The crowd, from what I could tell, was really in it, and everyone was hoping. I mean, yeah, Michigan went down, scored first drive, okay, but that turnover really set things back a bit, and Michigan never really looked back after that, and so we
never had to
limit mistakes. I mean, obviously, but then we have to come out, and our defense might give up a score here or there, but our defense has to be really that backbone of the team. We've known this all along, all season. Our offense is just kind of get what we can take at this point. Obviously, we hope Himberg, grows and can become potentially, the quarterback of the future, or Sims even. We hope they can, just lead the offense and limit turnovers, make plays when they need to. But the defense is going to be really our bread and butter that needs to carry this team. And so we just have to, lean on that. And Illinois is clearly not going to be Michigan. Michigan, to their credit, great offensive team. They know what they're doing. They have a lot of big boys up front that really push us around. We're able to get, 4 or 5 yards down the field before we could even touch a running back or anything like that. So all the credit to them. Great team. Obviously wish them the best. But we we wish them the best. Go Big Ten or something. I don't know.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that.
But
we switched to conference cheering now.
Let's say we don't wish for any injuries or anything like that.
We don't root for injuries.
No.
But I don't want them to win either.
We wish for some close games for them. Maybe, I don't know. Don't blow up or blow out. I don't care. Live your season, enjoy it, do whatever you feel you need to do, Michigan. Sure. But Nebraska needs to come out, and Nebraska needs to have its moment against Illinois. We need, like I said, we need the defense to really show up. We need the offense to at least be competent enough to not turn the ball over. We need the offense to just keep the defense off the field at the very least, so that they can have a little breather.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to go a long ways. I think we have. I mean, it's 2-3 Nebraska, 0-2 in the conference versus 2-3 Illinois, 0-2 in the conference. It on paper it's an even matchup. We'll see what happens on Friday, but if Nebraska comes out like they have shown kind of their best sides, I think anything can happen. So I'll pass on to Zach with any final thoughts before we get into predictions here.
There's no final thoughts. I think we've exhausted. I mean, we've only really talked about Illinois, to be fair. I think it's time for some predictions. So I'm good to go. If you guys still need some time to think, I'll start it. So
Gucci.
All right. Well, so we've clearly seen that Nebraska is not a high octane offense. And weirdly enough, Illinois hasn't looked terrible on offense, but they're not nearly the juggernaut comparatively that they were last year. So I think I may have learned my lesson after the last few games, where every time I'm like, you know what? I think the offense is going to figure it out. This time I'm going to assume not so much. And I'm going to say it's going to be a close game because it's a Big Ten game. So naturally it's going to be a close game. And Illinois always plays us well. I am going to say that Nebraska ekes out a win. And I'm going to say we get them at 21 Nebraska, 18 Illinois.
Okay.
Very low scoring game.
I will sort of price this right you here. I also think Nebraska will win. Again, low scoring. Under's going to hit. Nebraska will reverse cover, or I guess, whatever that is. Because the spread is -3.5 Illinois right now.
Yep.
So Nebraska will at least cover their end. But I'm going to say 24-17 Skurs.
Man, you guys make this tough because I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Illinois has shown they can score, which is interesting. And it's really going to come down to whether our defense can actually show up after, the 45-7 blowout against Michigan. I think the odds are in our favor. And I have a decent feeling going into this game. Like I said, I think Coach Rule has really internalized this. We need to change the culture around. We need to just fire up the guys. Yeah, the Michigan game happened, but it's not going to be a game that defines us. So I think we come out. I think defense at least has a good showing. I think we still give up a couple scores. I think Illinois, is going to come out and give us the best shot. But I'm going with a 20-14 Nebraska Cornhuskers victory over Illinois.
All right. Like
cool. All right.
The team.
No fanfare on this one. I was gonna say, hilariously enough, firing into the sun this week is us for having faith that we would we would play that.
No,
wait, but hey, to our defense, we all said that we were not going to win the game.
I mean, yeah, but we were all pretty, somewhat confident at least that we might make it a game. And
but once that built the rocket are going to get into their own rocket.
I don't know if I can do that.
We'll
built the rocket for others.
We'll just make sure it loops back around and lands on the ground for us. I don't know. The team. I mean, I'm sorry.
Everything about Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go with our age-old fire the offensive line because Anthony Grant 6 for 16 yards.
I mean, fair, but what were we supposed to do? Like Michigan's
Anthony Grant was like,
are...
hey. I haven't had a career year yet.
I think
you're not going to have it today.
I think, he had a career worst.
And I don't think Anthony Grant's bad at running the football. So I'm gonna guess that the people that were supposed to be blocking for him might have been doing their not job. But
Maybe.
if we want to fire the whole team in the sun, I
feel like that's the easiest and
that
most
might have
economical
to be the move, because Michigan minus 17 at an over-under of 39.5 didn't hit in a very painful way. So, well, it did hit, but
not in our favor.
Nothing good came out of it for Nebraska. So,
No, not at all.
Sorry, Coach Rule, but your team needs to make a new colony on the sun for at least the next couple
on the
days
sun.
here.
Just can you build a house next to the other ones we put up there? Good news is the sun is super livable. Okay.
Is it?
Yeah. Some
just
might say
just a little toasty.
Some might say, yeah.
It's like California,
just warm.
Yeah, a couple degrees warmer. It's fine.
I mean, it's just like living in Florida. Probably less humidity. I don't think there's much water up there.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So moving on to the final piece of, I think the final piece, unless we've got anything else at the end.
Nope.
Before we move on to trivia, we should probably mention that the planned live stream of Nebraskabilities for the year is no longer going to be able to happen, unfortunately, because we're going to be at the game that we were going to live stream.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We were like, oh, we should just all live stream it from our phones and do a live episode. And then we were like, that will never work because the service
Fan XP can't handle Nebraskabilities.
Yeah. So I don't think it will happen. I mean, unless we have like a surprise November. But as of right now, unfortunately, it's going to have to be postponed to next year. But it's in the works. So
it is in the works.
Yep.
We're just giving all of our fans that listen to us a bit more leeway so they can get really hyped.
You have really no excuse to miss it next year.
Okay, so then let's move on to trivia. And so we'll start with last week's trivia question, which was, when was the last time? Turns out it was not now. It is not Saturday at this point. Now, unfortunately.
Darn.
When was the last time that the Huskers beat the Wolverines? And that was actually a decade ago in 2013. And the bonus, who was the leading scorer between both teams in that game? Who did we determine it was?
It was Brett Maher.
Brett Maher.
Yeah, the kicker had
if you picked the
2 extra
kicker
points and a field goal.
Yeah, you get like 10 extra points if
Out
you
of
pick
our
the kicker.
Points, his 5 were the top scoring for the team.
Wow.
Rear Abdullah had a touchdown, and Tommy Armstrong also had a touchdown.
Tommy too Armstrong.
Tommy like strong.
He was everything too strong.
All right. So our winner for last week is once again Chris.
I was gonna say.
So congrats to him. At this point, I think we're far enough along that we probably.
Never know.
Never know.
It's only week 5.
At this point,
I'm into week 6.
Yeah.
Plenty of time.
There is trivia. So those of you that listen, this is a legit thing that we're doing.
There is trivia.
So there is trivia.
It's not just us asking questions to Chris.
Maybe that's what we should start doing. Just specifically call people out that we know listen to us. Be like, hey, you need to answer this one.
I know you listen to this. You better answer.
So then the trivia for this week is, when was the last time that Nebraska beat a Brett Bielema coached team? Specifically, when they beat a Brett Bielema coached team. So that's because he is now the head coach of Illinois. So that's why it's that question. Then the bonus is, what team was he coaching for? So put on your thinking caps and let us know the last time that Nebraska beat Bielema and who he was coaching at the time. And so, as usual, all the links will be on our socials. Wherever you see your podcasts at, you can find them in the.
Yeah.
If you watch the YouTube
Oh,
video,
there.
it'll be If
You
you're
know, I think I'm
listening,
pointing
if
to
you're
Nate.
if you're listening to it, it'll be down below.
It'll be
If
contact
you're
Nate.
if you're watching it,
to it right now, thank you.
if you're watching it on YouTube, it will for sure be down below. If you're listening to it, it'll be in the description of the episode. And if you're old school, which nobody has been, but if you decide to change your mind starting this week, you can email us. And at this point, we'll even take a phone call or a Pony Express. We're just letting you guys know there's trivia and there's prizes.
Send all your complaints to Sacramento.
Yeah,
Whoa.
exactly. Yeah. So
that's where our PO box is.
Awfully convenient.
It is. You're right.
Works out. All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Anything for you guys?
Scores by 90.
You know what?
Go Big Red.
Go Big
Hey,
Red.
go Big Red.
Go Big
Absolutely go Big Red. Sorry, Bert Bielema, but not your week.
I've always, every time I see his name, I always want to call him Bert. I never see Brett spelled without 2 T's. So it's like, all right, it's Bert.
See, you guys are going the friendly way. Every time I see his last name, I keep thinking it says bulimia. And I'm like,
that too.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that can't be good.
Bert, good luck finding your Ernie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, the Nebraska Cornhuskers take on the Illinois Fighting Bretts on Friday, October 6th at 7:00 Central Time, the only time that matters.
Pacific time, the better time. You're welcome.
And so
how much of our audience is cater to Pacific Coast people?
At least one.
At least one.
And by the way, I would like to remind you, Nate, that the majority of Nebraska, not all of it, the majority of Nebraska though is in the Central Time Zone. Therefore,
if we got a really big panhandle, it could just stretch it.
You never know. I'm just saying.
Weirder things have happened.
just saying. But with that, thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you again next week. And of course, we'll leave you with our lovely tagline of, if it's a possibility, it's a Nebraskability.